Hello and welcome to Arli's Atelier. For this video, I'll be sharing how I made the things we're afraid to say. The process is almost similar to my first 3 self-published books, but this time, I worked with my friend KB Maniado who edited my manuscript. KB is incredibly insightful, professional, and supportive. She offers services like beta reading, proofreading, and editing your work. Before we continue on to the process, I'll share a bit about the book first. The Things We're Afraid to Say is a collection of short stories about friendship and love. It's something special for me. Although they are fiction, they do contain truths and my sentiments and rumination on the aforementioned themes. I find that I enjoy writing about friendship and love because ultimately they are about the people in our lives and the relationships we have with them. With that, let's begin. The first thing I did was to figure out what kind of book I'll be making. I wanted to create something about the connections and relationships we have, but it may be a little vague if I stuck to something as general as that. So I assessed the past stories I've written before and realized that there were a lot of them that had friendship and love as their main themes. The next step was to gather the stories I've written in the past in one document. I reviewed my posts before on Instagram, as well as other stories that I just wrote in my notebooks, journals, and private blog. If you want to self-publish your own book too without having to start from scratch, see if you've written a good number of stories already, because you can make a collection out of them like what I did with this book and the others. You'll be surprised to see that hey, you've actually written enough to compile in a book. It helps too if they have certain themes that are similar to one another, so at least the book you'll make will be a coherent one. Now that the document is complete, it's time to write and rewrite the stories. I further improved the existing ones by adding more flesh to them or even lengthening the story. I also wrote new ones though that I have never shared online, so you'll only be reading them in the book for the first time. I wrote the titles as well of each story in this stage, keeping in mind the principle of making it catchy and clear. It's in this step too that I drafted the order of the stories, from trying to find love and friendship in others to finally finding love in oneself in the end. But my friend KB had a different perspective on this, but we'll get to that in the 4th step. Once I finished rewriting, I shared the document with KB who reviewed and edited my work. I'm so lucky to work with KB. If you want to work with an editor, which I highly recommend now that I've gotten more experience and made mistakes in my previous ones, in my previous books I suggest that you collaborate with someone who respects your voice as a writer and as a person and works on how to amplify that. It's essential to have fresh eyes to read your work because even though you think you've hit the mark, there's still something you will miss that only an experienced person can see. KB did an incredible job in editing, and I also love how she would make suggestions on how to clearly express a line or a sentence. She'd ask questions and confirm the events happening in a certain story so I could dig down deeper on what it is I want to say. Since KB has done a lot of editing work, she definitely knows the best way stories could be read. She suggested to change the order of the stories from what was existing to this: meet cute or declaration of friendships, start of a relationship, facing and overcoming troubles, and finally to enduring and making it through. It all made sense when she said that. At least the book would end on a hopeful note. The book went through 4 rounds of revisions. In each round, I would approve the changes KB made and work on her comments to improve the manuscript until we were down to the final version. While I revised, I also placed the manuscript that was a work in progress in my InDesign file. This is so I could do 2 things at once to save time. I also needed to figure out how the illustrations would be placed in the book, so starting the layout early helped. Once the final editing is done, I could easily copy and paste it to the InDesign file. I made the size to 6 by 9 inches, so it will be a little book that readers could carry around easily. That's it for part 1 of this topic. See you on the next one! Thank you for watching!